Most men think freedom means having no rules, no responsibilities, no boundaries, no one telling you what to do. But the truth is, the man with no discipline is never truly free. He's a slave to his emotions, a slave to procrastination, a slave to lust, a slave to comfort, and a slave to the opinions of other people. But the Bible never calls us to a life of slavery. It calls us to a life of freedom. But here's what many men misunderstand. Freedom isn't found by escaping discipline, but freedom is found through discipline. And today, we're going to see why. The lie we believe. Our culture says, do whatever feels right. Follow your heart. Live your truth. But feelings make terrible leaders. And Scripture tells us something very different. In Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28, it says, a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Think about that image. In biblical times, a city without walls was not free. That city was vulnerable. Anyone could enter, anyone could attack. There was no protection, no stability, no peace. And that's what happens when a man lacks discipline. Every temptation enters. Every distraction steals his attention. Every emotion controls his decisions. Because discipline is not a prison, but it's the wall that protects your life. Because the man who cannot rule himself will always be ruled by someone else. Freedom has a price. Everyone wants freedom, but few want the habits that create it. You want financial freedom? Well, that requires disciplined spending. You want a strong marriage someday? Well, that requires disciplined character today. And you want to hear God's voice? Well, that requires disciplined time in prayer. And you want confidence? Well, that requires disciplined obedience. Because there is no shortcut. Scripture says in Galatians chapter 6, verse 7 through 9, a man reaps what he sows. And so let us not grow weary of doing good. For at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Notice something. God promises a harvest, but only after consistent planting. And nobody applauds the farmer while he's planting seeds, but they celebrate him when the harvest comes. And the sad reality is many men quit because they're still in the planting season. Jesus was disciplined. Sometimes we imagine Jesus simply drifting through life, but his life was incredibly intentional. In Mark chapter 1, verse 35, it reads, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Before the crowds, before the miracles, before the ministry, before the demands, Jesus sought the Father. Not occasionally, but consistently. And if the Son of God made disciplined time with the Father a priority, what makes us think we don't need it as well? Because your morning reveals your priorities long before your words do. Imagine beginning every day by feeding your spirit before feeding your phone. How different would your life look a year from now? Joseph chose discipline over desire. One of the greatest examples of discipline in Scripture is Joseph. He had every opportunity to compromise. Potiphar's wife pursued him relentlessly, and no one would have known. He could have justified it. He could have blamed loneliness, and he could have blamed circumstances. But instead, he ran. Genesis chapter 39 says he fled the house. Notice, he He didn't negotiate with temptation. He didn't pray about whether it was okay. And he didn't see how close he could get to the fire. But he ran. Because disciplined men don't see how close they can get to sin, but they decide how far away they can stay. That one decision preserved his integrity. And years later, God elevated him from a prisoner to ruler over Egypt. And so his public promotion was built on private discipline. Because the decisions nobody sees often determine the life everybody will see. Discipline produces strength. Paul understood this. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24 to 27, he compares following Christ to an athlete training for victory. And athletes don't become champions accidentally, but they train, they sacrifice, they say no to comfort. And why is that? Because the reward is worth it. And Paul says, I discipline my body and keep it under control. Notice he doesn't say, I wait until I feel motivated. Because feelings change, but convictions remain. The strongest men aren't those with the strongest emotions, but they're the ones who obey despite them. Small choices become your life. We often wait for one big breakthrough, but God usually works through small daily obedience. Reading one chapter, praying one more minute, choosing purity one more day, getting out of bed when you don't feel like it, keeping your word, working hard when nobody notices. Because character isn't built in dramatic moments, but it's built in the ordinary moments. In Luke chapter 16, verse 10, Jesus says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And we need to remember that God often tests us with the little things before entrusting us with greater things. The cost of undisciplined living. Every lack of discipline eventually sends a bill. Lust steals intimacy. Laziness steals opportunity. Pride steals relationships. Comfort steals calling. Procrastination steals years of your life. And sin always promises freedom, but it always delivers chains. But Jesus offers the opposite: temporary sacrifice for eternal freedom. Your challenge. So here's the challenge. For the next 30 days, wake up earlier. Open your Bible before social media. Pray before checking notifications. Exercise your body. Guard your eyes. Keep your promises and do the hard thing first. Not because discipline earns God's love, because you already have His love through Christ. But you practice discipline because you refuse to waste the life He's entrusted to you. And remember this: every disciplined choice is a vote for the man you're becoming. And every compromise is a vote for the man you're leaving behind. And so the question is, which man will you feed today? Final charge. Jesus never called ordinary men to ordinary lives. He called fishermen, tax collectors, ordinary people, and through daily obedience, He transformed them into men who change the world. And He wants to do the same with you. Not overnight, not through motivation alone, but through faithful obedience. Because one disciplined day becomes one disciplined week, and one disciplined week consistently can become one disciplined year. And one disciplined year can become a transformed life. So today, choose discipline, because discipline doesn't take your freedom, but it builds it. So men of God, keep growing, keep striving, and never give up on the Lord.